Coming into the ring, the Shadow.
Grab me 100 again, bro. Alright, boy, man, I'll see you there.
Round of applause, baby, make that clap. Drop it to the floor, make that clap. Round of applause, baby, make that clap. Drop it to the floor, make that clap. Let me see you bust it, bust it, bust it, bust it, bust it, bust it, baby. Drop it to the floor and bust it, bust it, bust it.
Are you ready? Ooh, I know you see me standing here. Do I look good, my dear?
Understand and show that we know what velocity is. So what we did was found the average velocity of 30 meters sprint.
Luxury, chitty ching ching, could buy anything, cop that. Collard greens, 3 degrees low, make it hot for me, drop that. Yeah, stop this.
According to my research, velocity is not speed. Velocity is speed plus direction and the rate in which it changes. Speed is how fast an object is moving and how much distance is covered in a certain amount of time.
Can you give me examples of velocity and speed?
First example is, if a car is moving 50 miles per hour each, it shows an example of velocity. Speed is only 50 miles per hour with no direction.
Can two objects move at the same speed but have different velocities?
Yes, because one direction could be positive and another could be negative, and it will change the velocity.
No, let me see it. I'm straight. Just let me see it. Second.
If Pyrus and Crips all got along, they probably gun me down by the end of the song. Seem like the whole city go against me.
This is the position versus time graph. In part A, the runner went to meter 3 in 3 seconds. In part B, he stayed there for 2 seconds. In part C, he went to 6 meters in 3 seconds. In part D, he went backwards to meter 4 in 2 seconds. In part E, he stayed there for 1 second. And in F, he ran to meter 10 in 3 seconds. This is the velocity versus time graph. In part A, the velocity was 1 meters per second. In part B, the velocity was 0 meters per second. In part C, the velocity was 1 meters per second. In part D, the velocity was negative 1 meters per second. In part E, the velocity was 0 meters per second. And in part F, the velocity was 2 meters per second. Part A, the velocity relates back to the position versus time graph because, as you can see, the runner was going forward and the line is going in a positive slope. And part B relates back to the position versus time graph because the velocity was 0 meters per second, and that explains why in the position versus time graph it's a straight line because the runner wasn't moving in part B. And in part D, the velocity was -1 meters per second because in the position versus time graph, the line is negative and the runner went backwards when he was walking.
Just hold on, we're going home. It's hard to do these things alone. Just hold on, we're going home.
Missing your face and your touch, missing your kiss and your love, missing every little bit of you. Baby, would you meet me? Waiting 'cause I'm down for you. Do the many things I would do just to feel you, hold you. And it's so hard to have you here.
Wait, what did I miss?
Just be like me, missing you, baby. Me.
What song is this?
Promise to listen before you sleep.
Anybody know? Are you recording?
On the roof getting high, high. Blow my smoke in the sky, still ignoring advice. On the roof getting high, sipping on my so cold. Live it up till I'm dead, ignorance in my head. Fuck whoever you are, I do it floats my pole. Blow my smoke in the sky, still ignoring advice. On the roof getting high, sipping on my so cold. Live it up till I'm dead, ignorance in my head. Fuck whoever you are,
yeah. I'll be after that, half and half on a Palmer G. I got your girl calling, told me meet me at the beach. I'm aware hollering in Main Street of the colony. Starlight was bright with the last night. Now she's calling. The rules might bend to break, that'll remain hidden. Like we're throwing down when Mary's away on business. That's hectic, sis, flower dress, long hair, blurred nights, but we still taking care. We rep the fam. Wake up way too early, get some food and down and dash. Too hungover to know the difference between this and that. Focus on how to open